I want it on record that I am leaving my whooping stick at home. If that's not a sign of giving this movie a fair shot, I don't know what is. So, I just got back from Birds of Prey and yada yada Harley Quinn. Now, when I previously talked about this movie, I did not expect it to be bad. I did not hope it would be bad. I wasn't lambasting every element of it. I just didn't have any faith in it based on what I was seeing and, well, DC's movie history. In case you haven't seen it yet, it's about Harley Quinn, who has broken off ties with the Joker and has a bunch of targets on her back, including Black Mask, aka Roman Sionis, who is willing to maybe let her live if she can retrieve a diamond in the possession of a young girl. And this brings Harley into conflict with several other characters, Renee Montoya, Black Canary, and the Huntress. There's a non-linear element at work here, not unlike the first Deadpool movie, but it does kind of work. It worked for Deadpool because I think, it helped that, he's a fourth wall breaker and all this. Harley didn't seem to really be that to that level, but there were a couple of times she looked at the camera, she addressed the audience, and the fact that it was so inconsistent kind of took me out of the movie. But that aside, it did help bring these characters together in a way that did feel cohesive as far as an overall story. The fight scenes were done very well, I thought. I thought they got a little too graphic and visceral for my taste because, she hits a guy in the leg with a baseball bat and his leg bends just so that you can tell, there was a break. No. Did not like that. Now, while there is a big focus on Harley, there is some more focus on the other characters than you got from the trailer. So they're not just all complete set pieces, but the story is still very much about Harley. There were some funny moments, some situational stuff, a couple of jokes here and there that were fine. I was never busting a gut, but I wasn't entirely bored either. Now, as the characters, Harley, they do reference like Suicide Squad and so forth way back when, but only a couple of times. Like there's this animation at the beginning. It's a nice animation where she talks about her childhood, her father trying to get rid of her so often, leaving her with some nuns. She didn't like being disciplined by the nuns, so she fought back. And then she eventually went to medical school, went to Arkham, and fell in love with the Joker. And they don't play it like the Harley Quinn animated series plays it, like, oh, he's been using me this whole time, and I'm angry, and I hate his guts now, and so forth. They play it like, yeah, she did love Joker. She did care about him, but for whatever reason, it's over between them. He just kind of has her thrown out. It looked like she was being thrown out of a townhouse or something. Like Joker's staying in a townhouse for whatever reason. I kind of find it questionable, like, oh, Harley's the one that came up with some of Joker's best schemes, but he took credit for it. I don't know. It's like, I guess you could. We didn't get much of the Joker in the Suicide Squad, so I guess they figured, hey, we didn't get to know him that well. Maybe it works out that way. I don't know. I just don't see it. You could say unreliable narrator, but that argument wouldn't get supported in the rest of the film. But anyway, they break up, but no one really knows, so she's kind of still playing the I'm Joker's girlfriend card because it protects her. But eventually word does get out, and Roman Sionis figures, well, maybe killing her would be fun, because she caused a ruckus in his club, broke the legs of his driver, and Harley's, like, for a wanted criminal, she just, like, no one really seems to care about catching her that much, except for Renee Montoya. She'll go into a store, she'll go into a restaurant and pay for like an egg sandwich. The proprietor is like, yeah, go ahead, it's okay. You're a murderous clown lady. I don't mind. It's just kind of odd because she's out in the open for a wanted criminal. Margot Robbie does do a decent job as Harley Quinn. She gets more focused than in Suicide Squad, where I really don't see, oh, she was such a good element in that movie. Yeah, but the whole movie was kind of bad, so she does get to play around as the character some more. She gets herself a hyena called Bruce, which she named after that. I think she said Wayne guy, but it sounded like she might have said wine guy. So she doesn't know who Batman is. She just named him after a famous dude. Okay, whatever. Renee Montoya, played by Rosie Perez, is a veteran cop whose partner took credit for her work and became captain while she's still a detective. And I thought, like, right after, Harley saying that Joker took credit for her work, then you have another character who had a man take credit for her work. Like, it seemed like they were going to do that for every single character, but they didn't. I think that while it is something that does happen, unfortunately, has happened, I thought that making Montoya also the victim of a dude taking credit for her work was kind of teetering on going overboard. But again, they don't do that with the other characters. Perez does a good job playing a cop that's very tired of not really being taken seriously, who does deserve more respect than she gets. She bends the rules a bit because she believes in what she's doing is the right thing. And they do touch on her having an alcohol problem. It gets mentioned once, and then later when she's more disillusioned, she's seen hitting the bottle. I don't know if that's accurate of the comic character, and not that it has to be necessarily. Overall, it didn't really seem to affect her much later in the movie. But I thought that, grizzled cop, Perez did a fine job. She's one of those elements that does help link one character to another, just beyond Harley. Black Canary is a singer in Black Mask's club. She has this interaction with Montoya that hints at her mother. They don't explicitly say her mother was the Black Canary or she was a superhero, just that she helped Gotham PD and she died. Gotham PD just forgot about her. So now, because Sianis pulled Dinah out of the gutter, gave her a job and so forth, she feels like she kind of owes him. She's going to be loyal to him, but that is only to a point. I thought maybe, because we got introduced to Dinah, she was, anonymously sending information to Montoya. I thought that maybe it was like, oh, she's doing a whole self-made superhero thing. She's undercover, but no, she's been working with Sianis for years. I'm sure that's not going to go over well with Black Canary fans. You get a little hint of her superpower in the club. She doesn't use it very often. At the end, she does use it to greater effect, and then she passes out, suggesting maybe she's not used to using it, maybe she suppressed it. It's not really explained. They talk about her past in a sufficient way, but as to why she doesn't really have that much stamina with her power, they just don't address it. And also, they don't really explain how she knows how to fight, but, well, you could imagine maybe living on the streets taught her a thing or two. She does have some interactions with Harley. It's clear that they're not friends. Harley is drunk after breaking up with Joker and is about to be tossed into a van by some creepo and his buddy, so she steps in and does the whooping on him. When the guy was kind of making out with Harley in the alley as Black Canary was walking by, I knew something creepy was going to happen that was going to make her intervene. Huntress feels very different in terms of her presence. She's featured throughout the film, bit piece here, bit piece there, and they do get into her backstory, which I think is told pretty well, as far as, narrated exposition goes and flashbacks and so forth. But it just feels like when she appears towards the climax of the film and she's grouped up with everyone else, it feels almost like she came out of nowhere. I don't know why. It's like she's there, but her presence is another matter. And she is tied to the story because the diamond that Black Mask wants is the Bertinelli diamond, which has, bank accounts engraved in it somehow. And so it is worth a veritable fortune. Her fortune, that also ties her to the story. But it's just like, when she's on screen, it just feels like Mary Elizabeth Winstead is like almost like a comedian trying drama, if that makes any kind of sense. I'm not saying she did a bad job. I'm saying that the way they had her play the character seemed someone more, awkward and trying to look tough and intimidating while shooting people in the neck with arrows, which you think would alone be intimidating enough. There are some comedic bits where she's practicing in the mirror what she says to people as she's killing them, calling herself the Huntress, and getting angry when people call her the crossbow killer. And that was kind of funny, but just something about the character's presence just didn't measure up to the others. It's like, if she didn't show up at the end, what are you missing? Other than someone else to punch the bad guys in the face. Now, Black Mask, played by Ewan McGregor. Again, I'm not too familiar with the character. I have seen some interpretations where he is prone to violent tantrums, but I felt like McGregor was really chewing the scenery a bit too much. And I'm not saying it was necessarily a bad thing. There were moments where he gave a very good performance, like at the end where he's gathered his goons and he's got the mask on and he's ordering them to capture the girl, kill the rest and everything. It was done very well. I don't know, I'm a little iffy overall on his performance. Victor Zsasz, I forget the actor who played him, he wasn't too bad, for a very loyal goon for the main boss. They did briefly touch on how Zsasz has scars for all his victims, but he phrases it like, I have a scar for all the birds I've helped fly away from this world, which really felt tacked on. And I think it was to help try and justify calling the movie Birds of Prey, because the only other person that gets called a bird that I can recall was Black Canary, which was her stage name, on top of being called a bird a couple of times by, I think, Zsasz and Roman as like the lead henchman. He did a fairly good job. He was kind of intimidating. He was kind of jealous if it seemed like his boss was showing favor to any other goon or employee. There were rumors like that Zsasz and Black Mask were going to be an item, but they never really confirmed it. You could probably say, well, maybe the possibility is there given some of their interactions, but nothing really concrete. So mileage may vary. And I think that covers all the characters in the movie. So that's my review. Have a nice night. What? The review's over. Watch something else. Ooh, Popeye's 3 for 5. What? There's nothing more to say. Look at the progress bar. It's clearly over. The video's done. All right, we all knew this was coming. Cassandra Cain. Let me start off by saying to Ella J. Bosco, y'all got robbed. Y'all got robbed. Because I feel like this character could have been great introduced in the DCEU if done properly, and while young Miss Bosco by no means does a bad job, I think she did a fine job. She could have been called Susie Mae McGillicuddy, and it would not have affected the movie at all. There's nothing really Cassandra Cain about the character. It's just like, oh, well, let's just use this character's name. Okay. Like I just... I mean, maybe they thought, oh, let's get this really obscure nerd point in here. I mean, granted, Cassandra Cain has more of a relationship with the Birds of Prey than Harley Quinn ever did, but... Or maybe they thought they were being clever because both the comic book version of Harley Quinn and Cassandra Cain debuted during No Man's Land. I don't know. She doesn't really fight anyone. Like, she hits a guy a couple of times, but is otherwise basically chased and captured and so forth. Basically, her character is this kid with these, argumentative foster, but we hear them screaming at each other, or at least the father you hear screaming, I didn't want this kid, you wanted the kid, I want her out of my house, and so forth. You hear them off screen, and she's, she pickpockets, she steals to get by, and she's got a cast on her arm, but I was waiting for the reveal that the cast was a fake, but if it was supposed to be a thing, it's never really revealed. And I expected, when all the bad guys were around and, Canary and Harley and the others were fighting them off, I expected, hey, surprise, I can kick butt too. And she just starts wailing on a bunch of guys, and the other women are like, whoa. But that at least would have been kind of funny, but they didn't go that route. People are so excited. Oh, Cassandra Cain's gonna be in the movie. We gotta support this. It's gotta be Cassandra. It has a character named Cassandra Cain, and if this was your introduction to Cassandra Cain, there's a much better version of the character. I said better version. Gotta fumigate this place. So I would highly recommend reading Batman issue number 567 and Detective Comics number 734. 2-issue story arc that introduces the character, or you could look at my playlist and see my review of it from last year. And that's where she first was introduced, and beyond that, I recommend her Batgirl run. Yeah, there's a much more interesting way to have brought the character into the DCEU. I'm not saying they had to have the whole earthquake-shattered Gotham scenario. They didn't need to make every single detail in the movie. I'm just saying, a mute martial arts expert that, struggles to make not just verbal, but personal connections with people, and what that character becomes is a much better introduction for the character. I can understand they couldn't use Charlotte Gage Radcliffe, aka Misfit, because her teleportation powers would make capturing her kind of, pointless. But now for the whole streetwise thief getting by, doesn't think she can count on anyone else, the actress does a fine job. But as a fan of the character, I just felt like there was a better way to go about this that would not only be faithful to the source material, but also help DC stand apart from the Marvel movies. I don't want to sound like I'm bad-mouthing the actress, because I'm not. I could have gotten over the whole talking thing. I still wouldn't have liked it. At least they didn't copy James Tynion IV. Though the more I thought about it, I think that despite what I said before, that, at least James Tynion IV got some things right when he reinvented Cassie, I'm actually less angry about this movie version than about the Orphan retcon, because, the movie producers, someone along the line, didn't know or care about Cassandra Cain, so using the name, maybe getting a few more butts in the seats because of it, was their goal, so they weren't trying to remake the wheel, whereas Tynion made one of the most antithetical retcons I can imagine, and thought that it's the same thing, I'm a fan, so yeah, and so I will say that I was wrong. The movie version, while not to my taste, is not as insulting to the character. Getting a bit more spoilery, by the end of the movie, Harley decides to take Cassie on as an apprentice, which yeah. Like she formed this bond with the character, and now her mercenary for hire thing, whatever she's trying to do, has now got this teenage girl. Whatever. And the weird thing is, like, Harley's apartment gets attacked, and it looks like her hyena just straight up blows up. Because someone threw a bomb in there. Some kind of makeshift explosive detonates, and she can't find her hyena. And, like, I thought, like, when she said, "Have you seen Bruce? Have you seen my hyena? Have you seen him?" Like, I thought she was just, like, in a state of shock. Like, she was in denial that her pet was gone. Then at the end, oh, there's Bruce. He was just wandering around Chinatown. Like, I guess the editing just kind of goofed up there, because it looked like the hyena just was caught in the explosion. Harley shoots the clerk officer, and none of the cops in the precinct do anything. She shot him with, like, a beanbag cannon that, also shoots, like, glitter and paint and stuff. She's using non-lethal means, but, like, first off, the precinct is very slow to react to all this. She hits one guy in a room with 4 other officers. She asks where the girl is, and he says, "Cell 7. Just, really? Just, I mean, I guess, like, it's Gotham PD, and they're known to have cops who aren't always the most courageous, and some are on the take, and some are a bit more corrupt than others, and so forth, but just, I don't know, it felt less like that's just the way Gotham is. A couple other thoughts that I neglected to mention on video. There were a couple of times where there was some awkward exposition that was clearly dubbed over by Perez, like when they're surrounded by bad guys and she's encouraging Black Canary to use her superpower. It really just comes out of nowhere, even though we did have that scene earlier where she talked about knowing Dinah's mom. And earlier than that, she was informing Huntress that Black Mask was really the guy behind the death of her family, and that seemed tacked on to give her a reason to stand by these other people she basically just met, which I can understand. On the other hand, I think it could have worked if it's like, oh, well, you're not getting out of here without help anyway, so you may as well work with us if you want to live. There was also various moments where they showed Harley's psychological acumen, which I thought was a nice touch. Though in the final confrontation with Black Mask, she can't see where he is, it's too foggy because he's got Cassandra, and he's talking about, "You need me, Quinn!" And, like, based on what? He tolerated her antics because she was associated with the Joker. That's it. There was no real indication that he was this force in her life that let her live or die. There was nothing like that. It was kind of like in Captain Marvel, where that, evil alien dude by, I think it was Jude Law, saying, "You have to face me and prove it to yourself." Like, that kind of came out of nowhere, and this came out of nowhere. She was already trying to save Cassandra, so there's no real point to that, other than a very tacked on, I believe in myself thing, which isn't inherently bad, but it needs a better foundation, otherwise it just feels unnecessary. I sat through the credits, because I usually sit through the credits, because they do, like, have the whole post-credits, mid-credits, end-credits scene. And, 2 things. One, there is no real scene, but there is Margot Robbie saying, "What? You're still here? Okay, I'm going to tell you a super secret." And I kind of saw what the secret was, or at least the joke I saw coming. And I also noticed that the dialogue editor for the movie, and this is true, is named Stephanie Brown, which is probably the funniest thing in this movie. Overall, I don't think this is a bad movie at all. I think it could have been better, but it could have been infinitely worse. Probably just below, like, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Shazam. But some of that, I'll admit, is, like, my personal taste. I think they could have gotten a a completely different character for LJ Bosco to play, or at the very least, get a different actress, a different character, and save Miss Bosco for a more appropriate introduction for the character. But, well, what are you going to do now? As for why it didn't do well, I guess the box office for the weekend was poor. I don't think it's the evil men not seeing the movie because apparently they're obligated to, or they hate women or something like these. These are supposed to be adaptations of characters they like. I think what killed it was marketing. It's not the Birds of Prey movie. It's a Harley Quinn movie. Even after seeing it, it's a Harley Quinn movie. They could have called it Harley Quinn the Fantabulous or something, and that would have been it. And that would have been fine. People still would have gone to see it. I think that some people just feel this isn't a Birds of Prey movie. I saw a lot of criticisms. There's no Barbara Gordon, and she's a founding member of the Birds. And, people didn't like that. So I think that the marketing department kind of goofed up. If you think it's the worst movie of the DCEU, it's not. If you like Harley Quinn, you'll probably like the movie. If you're a fan of the other characters in the movie, I'm not a fan of Cassandra Cain. I don't think they did her right. And the whole alternate universe thing, that doesn't really apply to everything. You can't say, oh, it's an alternate universe, it's fine. No. If you're going to adapt a character, there are certain elements of that character that are crucial to presenting them to the audience. That makes them stand out. And they had none of those qualities for Cassandra. So saying that it's an alternate universe doesn't change anything. It doesn't make it a better movie. Maybe people don't like that Black Canary was working for a mobster. Maybe, Helena Bertinelli, I think, as far as explaining who she is and what she does, that wasn't done too badly, but, I've never been a huge Huntress fan, so those are my rambling thoughts on the movie. I gave it a shot, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it could have been. I think it would have been a more successful movie if they just advertised, if they just called it Harley Quinn. I hear they're apparently calling it Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey or something along those lines now, but kind of too late, don't you think? I was, at least, I wasn't as disappointed as I was with Dawn of Justice, and I guess that's all I got for now, so I'll see you later.